Hello, this is Daniel Leon with Behind the Story. I realize that this YouTube channel is called Wrestling and Sports Talk. I'm sorry for that, but I don't know how to create a new channel. So for now, I'm gonna use this channel for Behind the Story. Okay, so, don't know when or how, or I know how, but don't know when, but I'm gonna start doing interviews that they're like shoot interviews where I take people I know or stars that I can find that I would usually interview for my podcast. Okay, my mom just walked in. This is not live, by the way. Nobody can see us.
That's not what I'm saying. I'm coming in and you taping.
Well, it's about this. That's why.
Okay, sure.
You can hit Edit Championship, and by the way, when I'm on fantasy booking on Reddit, I came up with an idea, but I didn't know what to call it. So I just thought, I thought if I go back on fantasy booking and talk about this, instead of trying to come up with a fancy name, just thought I'd do like Bellator MMA, where they create a championship tournament to crown a new #1 contender, and the prize in the tournament is not just a I'm trying to remember how you say that. It's not just a #1 contender ship that you win, but it's also a title belt with it. So on WWE 2K16, I decided to create that for the U.S. title. And as time goes on, I'm going to do the same thing with the Intercontinental title and the tag team titles. That way when I look at it, it's obvious whatever the title belt symbol I use. Because they redesigned the US title, I prefer the WCW title. So let's see. Edit the title. So I'm showing my mom the picture. Remember that?
Okay.
Remember that?
Not really, okay.
Okay, I want to see if she remembered. This is my favorite because they have the eagle symbol for the title and everything. And they even have the American flag in the title belt symbol itself.
Okay.
So that's why I always loved it. And
are you gonna make another one? No?
I made two. One for men and one for women.
Okay.
Custom championships. So it would be base setting. Original championship. No. I don't know how I got one that was already existent.
I didn't bring it to the road. You know they didn't have nothing in there? Since Tuesday we didn't throw trash.
Yeah, we ain't been doing anything, that's why.
So,
Okay.
that's all they have.
Okay, thank you.
So if I'm able to find out how they did it earlier,
Show me yours.
I just did. That was what I took.
This one right here?
No, the U.S. title that I showed you. That's what I created. That's what I created for the Grand Prix.
Okay. For both the men and women?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Very good. It looks like fun. Keep on.
Oh, yeah. Just go to Edit, Championship, Custom Championship, you added a championship,
Mm-hmm.
and you I guess you try to find one that looks like it so you can
I saw
change
kind
it.
of templates a while ago.
Yeah. So that's what it is.
You
Okay,
can buy
so
something to make it.
that's, I just thought I'd share that before I talk about anything. One thing that is talked about, especially recently, is managers, and we have somewhere in this house a DVD about managers. And some may not know what the purpose or the big deal is about having managers. Well, when I was growing up, that's all they spoke about were managers, because you always had somebody that needed a manager somewhere. And what I like about the fact that AEW does it is, sorry, I just realized it's gonna be a little harder than I thought, but when I was younger, I always was very, what we call, a big fan, not just managers, but of title belts. And most managers had champions that or made you want to see champions. So it was always my big deal about managers. And what I liked about the DVD of managers is they showed the purpose of a manager, but also showed how some managers were not really necessary, but at the time it made the biggest difference. And I'm still trying to think, how can I say this the right way? So when I was a kid, what I really liked was if you saw tag teams, you would see that they were trying to think, how do you say this the right way? When you would see tag teams that usually had the best managers were the ones who had champions. They, a lot of times, they were the ones who had managers. And the reason I'm talking about managers is just because that's what I was thinking of. And if you pay it, if you, I think I've done this enough times where I think most people will say that that I'm being honest when I say that my favorite manager was actually were the male and a female, and because of the storyline together. And the amazing thing is that when you put one with the other, so it made this manager better. So it makes you wonder, looking back at that, what did you wonder why they keep the other one manager when they could have just used that person instead of talking for his men. They could have just made him could have just had him make decisions, and it just really is difficult to say. Could just had the man be like, actually look back at it, even though what he did was great, even though he did a great job in his role, the mistake was having him be in the role of a manager when he should have been what we call just promoting. And the difference is, to manage somebody, you're supposed to.
You don't want some major problems with that? Oh,
When you promote somebody, I know managing and promoting are very similar, but the biggest difference that I've been able to see, especially the past few years, as a fan of AEW, is that when you manage, it's your duty. If the person you are managing already has heat because they are a villain and they're good at it, it's your job to make people want to see them more, like, say, want to see them in the ring more and get an opportunity for the title somewhere down the line. That's where the female in this, and that's where my favorite female manager came into play, was Sensational Sherry. She was perfect at that. Her friend that she did the storyline with was great at promoting. He was great at talking for his men, but he was more like a promoter in the sense of when you're in legitimate fighting, they don't say manager, they say promoter. It's like they'll talk for you, they'll negotiate things, but manager in wrestling is more about, they're what we used to call an advisor, so their job is to get their men to look as as worthy of a title as you can be, worthy of a challenger or champion as you can be. A promoter can be more for, like, say, if you want to have a manager but they're there to promote you instead of manage you, then what a manager is like a promoter. But if your duty is to be a promoter more than a manager, if that is what you're trying to convince people that that you can do, your job is to get people believe you are a promoter, then your duty should be, okay, I'm here to make people want to know why my men should be vying for this title. But when you're a promoter, it's more like, how do you say that? It's very difficult. So, what I would say about that is, you have people that I'm struggling with this. Let me stop and think about this for a second. You have some people that are great at being wrestlers, but they're not great at talking, or they may even be great at talking, but they're not seen as being as what we call, they're not over with the audience. That's what the job of a manager is to get them over with the audience. Another job for this could be more like a job of a promoter. You're there to do the talking for them. You're there to convince either the opponents or the fans what they're capable of. And I'd say that that's pretty much what the manager position has become, is more like a promoter. So I think, even though I do think it would have been better to have Robert Fuller as Colonel Parker, he would have been better off talking for his men than actually being presented as a manager. I think the presentation was bad because he's better at promoting than managing. So I think that was a mistake in itself. When he was given the title promoter, he should have spent more time promoting people than being in the role of an advisor. Another person, and I think that's probably why he's considered the greatest manager in the history of the business, is Bobby Heenan, because he too was like a promoter. So if you can have somebody that can make you dislike just based on the association, that is pretty much the manager pretty much what a true manager is, and I think that's why it's perfect to make a Bobby Heenan or a Paul Heyman, anybody like that as a manager is perfect. Because they really can make people better just by their talking. Okay. Now, is there a topic I wanted to talk about? I just wanted to, go back to a minute about my ideas of, making my interview format behind the story, turning it into a DVD, series. I wanted to touch more on that. I noticed that somewhere along the line, it feels like 2 weeks at least. Feels like 2 weeks where I wanted to do this, but wasn't sure how to start or where to start. And all of a sudden I realized, hey, I need a camera. So now I'm waiting on a camera. Started reading about how to use this camera because I got a book with it. And I just realized, if you want to do an interview, shoot interview, because some people they have an ability to be booked for cheaper than what some shoot interview prices are extravagant, like $100 or more. So what I was thinking is, if I want to do a shoot interview where it's not just about just about one storyline, which was something my mom asked me about. There are people who have been following, not just behind the story, but people that have been following me throughout the years on every podcast I've done. I haven't gotten in touch with person that can help. They could be like a booker for me to get guests. I haven't done that yet because I don't know how to use. I don't know, especially now, wanting to branch out into shoot interviews. I don't know how to use things like Zoom, so that's why I haven't had that interview yet with Colonel Parker, whose real name. Sorry, I was afraid that was a little too low, so I'll say it again. Colonel Parker, whose real name is Robert Fuller. I haven't done him yet because I don't know. One, I don't know how to use a camera the right way, and I don't know how to even prepare for the type of interview, and with the way things are now with COVID. So I'm gonna do everything different, radical, whatever you wanna call it, where it's so different than what people are used to. I'm gonna do things different. I'm gonna be going to try my best to stay true to my interview style, where it's behind the story. I want to stay true that it is gonna be it's gonna be about wrestling, but it's also gonna be sometimes story about a person's what they do for a living, and if it's a person I'm friends with or related to, I'm gonna do a story about how they got into the job they're either entering into or have been doing for years. And that it's very important, I believe. My brother, his name is Shane, is about to enter into the medical field. I'm not really. He could be about to become a medical assistant. Medical assistant. But he also, throughout his life, he's been trying to remember everything he's done throughout his life. As an adult, he's worked the electronics department in Walmart. He's been a security guard. I think he might have worked at Sears before. He might have definitely was a security guard until he was laid off, I believe, from that job because of how they were changing everything where he was working. But he also was he worked at Sears and he was a security guard, I said. And really, I forget everything else he's done. He was, at one time before he was an adult, he managed a bookstore, a Christian bookstore in a small town not too far from where we live. So, makes me so that just in itself, knowing all the jobs he's had and everything that's gone from really, that's hard. So what else to say about that? That's what I wanted to share with y'all. How I'm trying to not just break into shoot interviews, but in the future, when I do my first interview, after learning how to use the camera I bought, I will be able to record his story, and I'll be able to download it and try to sell it. And I'll share later on the next story because that's going to take a while to do. And I hope y'all enjoy this, and I hope y'all enjoyed my uncertainty of what I'm going to say. And thank you. Goodbye.